Hey everyone, today we are going to be taking a look at what goes into a WordPress business website scope of work. So we've put one of these together for you as part of the Brainleaf system, and I want to walk you through all the different things we do when we're doing WordPress and we're doing just a general website. This is just a good place to get started. When you do any project, you're going to want to rework this a little bit, or at least a little bit. But this is a great place to get started. So let's take a look. All right. So here you can see we've got our WordPress business website template starting point. And just to be clear, this is something that we use at JH Media Group when we're first getting started on a new project. And I've gone ahead and loaded this into Brainleaf so that we can look at it and see how it's all put together. We also put together these basic instructions here on how to use this template. So it just says, this is for WordPress, and if you're building in Drupal or Craft or whatever, you probably need to change more than just a few things. And then we've added a few places like this, these brackets that need to be changed out for new items. So I'm going to go ahead and start and just give you guys an overview of everything before delving in. So first off, we've got our project-wide tasks and notes. And in this area, project-wide tasks and notes are going to cover things like writing out this information architecture, setting up the project, putting together your plugins and your widgets and your CMS, all of that. And then other things like concept design, project management, SEO, content creation, of course, your project launch checklist, which is going to cover all these items, and launching the project, and mobile responsive improvements. And then we have our information architecture portion, which is going to cover things like header and footer, homepage, services, work, company, and contact. These are just some of the basic pages that people will use in a basic WordPress website. So getting started, now I'm going to switch it over to read mode so we can take a look at what's in all these different areas. The reason we put together this project-wide tasks section to begin with is because there's things that you have to do for every project no matter what, which means these are for the most part fixed costs. And so we'd like to know not only what are our fixed costs, but what goes into every project and what are the little things that people forget to account for. So when we're writing up a new website scope of work, we always put at least these project-wide tasks and notes in there to account for all the things people are missing. So to begin with, we just got writing this thing out. So that's going to mean you're going to have to meet with the client. You're going to talk to them. You're not going to meet with them once. You're almost definitely going to meet with them 2 or 3 times about this kind of thing. And the first time, probably like kind of a brief meeting, and then the next time a more in-depth meeting to talk about what you put into it, and the third time just for everybody to finalize everything. It takes some time to figure out all the things that need to go into this. I've got it blocked at 5 hours. It could be as little as 3. It could be as much as 10, even for a small site. But it's never going to be less than 3. So don't ever put less than 3 hours in for that. Information architecture, planning, consulting. This is on your side when you are writing all this stuff up. So you talk with a client, you figure out what needs to go into the site, you're going to do some research, you're going to write it all up, you're going to put it into a document that looks like this. It's going to take you at least 3 hours. This project consultation, this is for doing more of the creative brief aspects. This is more like competition analysis, brand message, benchmarking, style guides, mood boards, etc. You're never ever going to have less than 3 hours of that. It's just, I mean, when it comes, like maybe it takes you less time to do that, but when you have to go through and write it all up, put it into a nice looking document, send it back to your client, it's never going to be less than 3 hours. So don't ever take that down less than 3 hours. And then this, by the way, these items under the planning and information architecture, these may be done during the sale portion of the project. So you may want them here, you may want them somewhere else, but you're probably going to want to include them here because you're going to need to think about the amount of time it took you to do them, and the amount of time that you're actually billing for. So that's why this is here. And you're always, by the way, writing this information architecture up as part of the project. So if nothing else, you're going to have that in there. Then you've got project setup. So this is just a list of all the items you need to have in order to set up the project. And this is going to be something like setting up a project communications tool, like Asana or Jira or ClickUp or I don't know, Teamwork, whatever it is that you use, you're going to need to go in and set that up. So I've got an hour put aside to that. Maybe it takes you less, probably takes you more. Every time I've gone in and done a really good job of just setting up the tools, it usually takes about an hour because I'm sorry, a little bit less than an hour because I've got to go in and set it up. I got to set the project up. I've got to write an email to everybody. I've got to post it on Slack that everything is ready to go. It's not usually quite an hour, but I put it out at an hour so you can adjust it from there. Next, we've got write up the full project plan in the project management tool. So this first one is just setting up. Next, you got to write all this stuff out. That's going to take you some time. We're actually working on a system in Brainleaf that just transfers this stuff automatically over to your PM system. But if you're putting it into Teamwork or Jira or Asana or whatever, it's going to take you at least 4 hours. Every time, 100% of the time, if you do a good job writing out all these tasks, all the things that go into it, a half a day is a really reasonable amount of time for that. So that's about how long that takes. Then, in this case, this is a website, and this is a website where we've got a code repository. I know that for not all WordPress websites, you're going to need this, but as you guys probably know with Brainleaf, you can either just disable this item or you can just delete the item and go over here and just say, I don't need this, delete it. But if you are using I'm sorry, looking at the wrong one. That's the code repo. The serving environment is the hosting area. So you're going to need that one way or another. My bad. So just wherever you're going to put it there. I really like WP Engine. We also use DigitalOcean and AWS, and we have used Liquid Web in the past, and we use Rackspace in the past. All these are great companies. Whatever works for you. So, but you need to tell your client where you're hosting it, or maybe it's on your client's side. Some systems as low as half an hour, other systems as much as 2 hours, or if you're doing a big project, man, it could take a lot longer. But this is not that. Code repo. Now we're at the code repo. So I put the code repo at 1 hour because you got to set it up. You got to put your first post in. You're probably going to set it up in Slack or connect it to Slack. You got to set up the connection. Then you got to let everybody know that it's there. You got to, there's all those steps that you got to go through to make sure that code repo is set up. So an hour is reasonable. Then you're going to go in. You're going to set up WordPress. I got it down for an hour. If you're proficient, it takes a lot less than that. You could be as little as 5 minutes, or it could be an hour. It really depends on how you're setting it up. So when you go in to change this around, just make sure, set it up to be whatever you want. You can set this up for half an hour if you want, or less, whatever. In this particular one, we're using Contact Form 7. I've been using Ninja Forms recently a lot more and just paying for it, but Contact Form 7 is free, and a lot of people use it because it's free. So I just went ahead and put that in there. We've got Wordfence. I like to have Wordfence on everything. It's a nice security plugin. The paid version is paid and it updates automatically for you, but I still like having Wordfence in there. If you're using WP Engine, they don't allow Wordfence, so don't even worry about that. Contact Form database that works with Contact Form 7. Yoast for your SEO. I just got the free version, but whatever. Maybe you want to use the paid version. Maybe you want to use some of the other SEO plugins. And a lot of times I'll also put Discuss into the system, Discuss, as the commenting system, or Advanced Media Library for the images and documents in the image and documents area. All right, so because this is a concept-based design, I just went ahead and put together this concept design item for you, which is just like a meeting with a client, project consult, research and planning, and then purchasing a theme. So this is you helping the client find a theme and then maybe a little bit of customization on it. But if you'll notice, there's no design changes in here. It's really just put it in, get it set up, go from there. Depending upon the client, could be more, could be less time. My experience is that this is usually pretty spot on, about 10 hours of time to get that concept design for a theme-based website just set up and going. Obviously, if you've got a custom theme, it's going to be really, really substantially a lot more than that. You know, tens or in some cases hundreds of hours. It really, really depends. I'm just doing concept, the theme-based design on this. You know, I'll do another one that's a custom themed design, so you can see how my hours put together for that one. Next, we've got project management. The way we do project management is this is set to 20% of all the time in the entire system. The reason we set it to 20% is because that's about how much time it takes. The bigger the project, the more time it takes for project management. But in Brainleaf here, it's just got an automatic 20%, and it just automatically adds 20%. So if I change the hours anywhere else in the system, it's just going to change it right here for me. SEO. So as part of this particular project, I have it listed as not a part of this project because I'm not going to do an SEO, or in this template, we're not accounting for SEO. However, if you are, then you would put your SEO portion here, or you would do it as a completely separate contract. It's really important if you're not doing SEO to state that you're not doing SEO. And that's the same thing right here with content creation. So I'm actually going to switch this to be a note because it is not a task, because there's nothing assigned to it, because in this case, we're not doing it. And what that means is that we'll send the client out a list of content we need, and it's their responsibility to get it to us. Really, it works a lot better if we write the content. It always works better when we write the content. It's always so much better when we write the content. But it's really dependent on the client. So as part of this template, I didn't add that into the project. Some clients, they've already got a ton of content, or they've got a writer, or they got somebody who's, or it's so specific, they only can use content matter specialists or experts on this, on the content, but it's fine. It's fine. As long as you say that you're doing it or you're not doing it, and then you figure out how much time it's going to do that, which I'll get into in another template, and into another template breakdown, then, add it or not. All right, before you launch the project, you're going to have a whole bunch of checklists and things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to check to make sure that you built all the pages, all the things that you said you were going to do, you actually did. So somebody's got to go in and just double check it. And in this case, we've got it down at QA at an hour, and that's actually really high. In this case, to check that we did everything, it's going to be like 0.12 minutes, just like a few minutes to do that. There's no time for that. It's very, very quick. So that's that. If it's a bigger project, though, I definitely recommend going in and putting putting some time into this, especially like we're doing a government website right now. It is really a lot of pages to check. It's like hundreds of pages. So somebody has to go through and double check that you built all the pages you said you were going to build, because the worst thing you want is to get the project launched and the client to come back and say, yeah, what about that whole section you forgot? So that's in there. Mobile responsiveness checked on Android and iOS. A lot of times people forget to do this, and then the client comes back and they say, oh, it's not working on whatever version of iOS, or on Apple, or on my phone, on my tablet, whatever. All we really do is we go into Browser Stack and we just check it in Browser Stack. And then if we see an issue, we go and we check it on that specific combination of OS and browser to make sure everything is looking pretty good. We're usually doing this as we go through and we build the system, but this is a final check for project managers to do, and it does take about an hour to do that. Cross-browser compatibility check, we check on the most recent versions of Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. And I don't know why that's in there twice. Let me take that out. There we go. Okay, so I just removed one of those. I don't know why it was in there twice, but now it's gone. But this is just checking in all of these items here. Speed check. We always like to go and do a quick speed check just to make sure there's nothing weird going on with the website, and you can just do that through the Google Developer Tools. Same thing, we'd like to add our webmaster tools. We like to make sure the sitemap is added. We add Google Analytics. Of course, this is something, it drives me so nuts when people forget this, is make sure that robots.txt says it's okay to be searched. That is in the tools area, then it's under, I think, reading. It's under reading. You have to go in and make sure that that little checkbox says it's okay for this site to be indexed by robots. So often I will see it where a client, not one of our clients, but somebody else will call us and say, hey, like we had this website built 2 years ago and it just never would rank. And the first thing we do is we go take a look at that robots.txt file, and it's searched to not be searchable. And it's just like, oh yeah, whoever built this messed it up. And really embarrassingly, if it does happen to us, it's really, really, really rare. But it happened, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was just super embarrassing. So don't let that happen to you. And then we have some SEO tech checks for under Google Webmaster Tools. Actually, I haven't clicked on this in a while because I don't actually do this piece. It's gonna take you to Search Console. All right, load back up. Okay, back down to here. SEO checks, and then project launch. So you got to launch the project. You got to put some time towards things like moving the DNS and MX records, pushing it live, and then checking everything again when you get it done. It's a little tiny WordPress site, so you've got an hour and 3/4 to launch it, which is also kind of time with the client on the phone. Like, yeah, we launched the thing, it's going, and then also going back through and double checking everything. And then, of course, mobile responsive platform improvements. So if you're building this on whatever, let's say you just bought a nice theme from Theme Forest and you still have to go in and make some changes, or you built it on something like Genesis or Bootstrap or something, whatever. You're going to have to go in and make some mobile responsive changes. You're going to want some things to show on mobile and some things to not show on mobile. And in this case, I've got it put towards 5 hours, but sometimes we'll go and we'll do a percentage for this task. So we'll say like 10% of the front end development time goes to changing, taking things out on mobile, or moving things around on mobile, or whatever. The nicer the theme, the less hours it takes. So in this case, we just put down 5 hours. It could be no time. It could be 1 hour. It could be a lot of time, especially if it's custom build. So just think about that when you're going through and you're building this thing. All right, now we go into the information architecture. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually group all of this stuff that starts at header, footer, and goes down to the bottom of the page, wherever it is, the bottom of the contact page, as information architecture. But in this case, where was I? Header, footer, I've just got it listed right here. So I like to have the header and footer because the client doesn't always understand what is a header and what is a footer, and why do I need it, and what does it do, and why should it always be the same? What is the UX implication of a header and footer? So I like to have this listed in my information architecture for that, and also just to say what goes on it. So here we've got the header. In this case, we're doing the logo, the phone number, the main navigation. We've got to get a consultation button because this template is a services business, although Even if it's a product business, you might want something similar. Kind of depends. And then send us an email / contact link to contact page. Obviously, if it's a local business, a brick and mortar business, you're probably also going to want like a location or find us link instead of a get a consultation button. It could be all sorts of other things, but this is just a template, so it's a good place to start. Then we've got our main navigation. So here we've got it listed as home, services, our work, company, with a subsection of staff, and a contact page. And then we've got our get a consultation modal, and you can see this is in fact a modal. So if you click on that get a consultation, it's going to pull up this form. And these are the hours it would take to build that form. And then, oh, look at this. I did not realize the footer was at the bottom of the page. I'll go and I'll fill that in for you so that it's a little bit more clear to the client, because I think we need another paragraph about what that means. If it's a really nicely done theme, maybe you don't need to do any coding on the footer, but a lot of times they need a little help. So I like to edit that theme a lot of times, that theme footer file, and so I got about 2 hours assigned to that. And in there, we're gonna have our contact info, full site nav, copyright info, social media, and that's it. And now we get going onto our homepage. And the homepage, I like to have project or page goals for every page. If it's a little tiny project, maybe we don't need it that much, but it's good for the client to know why we have this page here. And in this case, we've got to drive the user to a main call to action button and inform them of their choices. Obviously, different websites and different clients are going to need different goals. This is more than anything just to have something there so that you remember to put your client's goals in there. All right, and then we've got this is like a big old promo, a big old rotator. I'm sure you've seen these a million times. This explains what it is, and something that's really good to put in here, which is not currently in here, is how many images you're going to put in. So and then also if you've got a particular plugin you're going to put in, it's nice to put that in there also. The reason you want to have the number of images is because some clients are like, yeah, I want you to do 100 images. I thought that was part of the project. And you're like, yeah, I got like an hour and a half on this. So put in how many you're going to do so that there's no confusion at all. So because we've got a little bit of coding on here, I've also got a little bit of QA on here. Just make sure everything looks good and it's all set. Next, we've got just a little tagline. This is going to be more than likely part of just the theme. If there's no tagline, just take it off. Whatever. I've got 15 minutes assigned to this, and if you'll notice, I've got this programming CMS integration. This is just working with WordPress. Programming CMS integration, we use that term because we do lots and lots and lots of different kinds of sites. So I use CMS integration, but you could just say working with WordPress or working WordPress backend or CMS, whatever you want to call it. Now in this, next we got these service item promo boxes. These are just links out to the services. You could do so many other things on this page, but this helps you just kind of get started on what needs to go on there. And by the way, you can also see I've got this set up as a page and this set up as an element on this page. Next, we've got our services page, which is just a list of services. This could be a table or just a list. I think a list is fine. I'm thinking of this as a small little website. So, just item. Maybe you're going to want to use some custom fields on here, or maybe it's part of the theme. Depends on your theme, depends on what you like getting set up. In this case, I've got some coding because this is a part of this. I'm counting this as not a part of the theme and something that we're going to have to build in with some custom fields. So I've got some custom HTML and CSS, and we've also got some CMS integration here. So add template custom fields in there. And then we've got some content entry and formatting. We're going to add the content to the page for the client up front. I think I had that on the others, and if I didn't, we might need to add that back in. Okay, and then for each service, we've just got a page that explains each service and what it is and all the different pieces that go into that. If you'll notice in here, that quality assurance is at 20%, which automatically puts it to 1.6 hours. And that's 20% of the card, obviously not of the entire thing. Next, we've got our work. This is the maybe the company portfolio, and we've just got content entry on that page, because more than likely either a list, using the same kind of template as the services profile services page, or some other portfolio style like grid or something like that, which more than likely is part of your theme. But if it's not, then maybe add some hours here to account for that. And then you got this project page. Project pages are always different for every different kind of company. So what I did is I actually put in a fair number of hours to go in and change the theme around and adjust the template and all sorts of things in there. So this has got some text info, a photo gallery, a light box. You just always have to change it around for every different company. Sometimes you get lucky and the client wants something that is like spot on with what your theme already has, but most of the time you got to make some changes. So I've got a fair number of hours in here, but if it's spot on, then just take the hours down. You've got the company page, which is probably just going to be editing using your WYSIWYG editor, but you might also have a staff listing. So here I've got a change to the theme template for a listing page with some custom fields, and you just got image, first name, last name, title. You might also have a description or whatever else, or you might also just use a staff listing plugin, which works great. Sometimes it's cheaper for the client to do that, and sometimes you can just do it with just pages and profiles like this. It's really, kind of half a dozen of one, 12 of the other. It depends on the client and what their needs are. There are some really nice staff profile plugins these days that work really well, and they're not expensive. So a lot of times just go with that. And then we've got the contact page. Almost all the time these days, a nice theme or any theme is going to have a contact page, and it's going to have stuff like this on it. I've got a few hours put towards making sure this, I've got like an hour and an hour, 1.2 hours put towards making sure that the contact form is done right. It never takes less than half an hour. It just always takes half an hour. So don't ever put it less than half an hour. And then the Google Map, if you don't know, you got to go into your Google Map API through Google Cloud Services and set up that API these days. So always put down at least 45 minutes for doing that, because that's just how much time it takes. And then you got to add it in. If it's not a part of the theme already, I got half an hour for that. It's up to you. But yeah, I mean, these are the kind of things where it could go more, it could be less, but don't forget about the API. Social media icons, I've got 0.25 hours because usually it's just going in and finding the links and putting them in. If it's not, then you want to go in and add some more time for this. So that's it. That gives us about 104 hours. And this is really important because when you're thinking about building a WordPress site, a lot of people go in and they say, oh, it's going to be like a week of work. 40 hours, I got it, no problem, we're done. But when you go through and you break it apart the way we just did here, you realize, you know what? It's not 40 hours. It's like 2.5 times that much time. And it really is. We just broke this thing down, and I'm sure you guys realize looking at it that, yeah, maybe there's some hours a little high and there were some hours a little low, but overall it was probably pretty spot on. So don't underestimate yourself. Don't undercut yourself. Make sure your hours are reasonable. Make sure you're billing a reasonable amount for those hours, which, by the way, in this system, you come over here and go to the billing setup and set it up from there. And make sure you're billing the right amount. Make sure you're planning these things out right. And once you have all this stuff done, now let me come back up here to write the project plan. There it is. That's why we got 4 hours to this, because it just took me like 20 minutes to explain all this to you. I'm sure when you go through to write it into Asana or Jira or whatever, it's going to take you a lot longer than that to write all that stuff out, which is why we're building that plugin for you to just push it over. But that's a really good example, and this is a great template to use. It's what we use whenever we're starting a small business WordPress website, we're looking for that website scope of work document, this is what we use. And I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, this is Jason Long with Brainleaf. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.